a team of AI agents, created and trained by the artificial intelligence startup OpenAI, has taken down the reigning Dota to the international champions team up. It's the latest in an ongoing trend of pitting trained AI agents against professional esports teams to test their mettle, and one that showcases both the effectiveness of video games as AI training tools and how the machine learning tech itself is progressing. ArsTechnica has a write-up and analysis on exactly how the weekend showdown transpired. Built in short, a team of 5 machine learning-driven bots dubbed the OpenAI 5 faced off against the team up in a best-of-3 match. Both of the matches the OpenAI 5 went 2-0 can be viewed in their entirety over on Twitch, complete with live commentary throughout each game. Following the match, OpenAI has opened up sign-ups for a limited period of time to allow Dota 2 players to take the bet on for themselves, an opportunity that some AI-minded game devs might be interested in checking out. The bots themselves have been gradually trained across years by playing millions of matches against themselves, and had a few limitations compared to a team of human players. While a 5-person team playing Dota 2 would typically communicate with each other throughout the match, the OpenAI bots were treated as 5 independent players without the ability to communicate amongst each other. The bots also saw their reaction times restricted during realistic levels, and was only able to use a predetermined set of characters and items. As Ars points out, there are other differences in technique between the human and AI players that become apparent as the matches go on, such a lack of understanding of standard MOBA techniques, like pulling or last-hitting minions. NoClip has posted a short but sweet video interview with NetherRealm Studios creative director at Boon that looks at how the studio creates Mortal Kombat's famously bloody fatalities. According to Boon, the process begins the same way for each game in the franchise. The dev team gets the ball rolling by creating one fatality that showcases new tact to the player in an interesting and incredibly violent way. Boon will usually lead the charge on that first fatality, drawing up the move himself, before heading to the motion capture studio to see how it translates on screen. The very start of the process is always a fatality that's going to set the tone for the rest of them. I am usually the one who draws up that fatality and says, okay, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. This is going to let us demonstrate our new blood tech. This is going to let us exploit this type of animation, a particle system. He explained. So I will draw something up and go into the motion capture studio and capture the animations. It's usually an animatic without the final effects, so we can get a sense of the pacing and where the cool moments are going to be. So, by the time that one is completely, we have a whole bunch of other ones that are in the queue. But that one leads the charge and sets the tone for the rest of them. After that, the entire team will spend weeks and months in meetings hashing out different ideas before sending their picks to concept artists and animators. Curiously, they sometimes find that some of the best ideas on paper just do not feel right in game, and often need a fair bit of tweaking to get the desired result. If you are curious to learn more about the process, you can watch the full interview at the top of the article. Oh, and be sure to check out NoClip on YouTube if you like what you see. If history had taken a different turn some 16 years ago, an entire generation of ragamuffins might be grown up playing Diablo on their Game Boys. You see, way before smartphones ruled the world, one Blizzard North programmer, called Jonathan Morin, began to wonder what the franchise might look like on the small screen. Speaking to Variety for a recent feature, Morin revealed, not curious about the idea, after spying the Game Boy dev kit in a studio corridor, after mulling it over, he eventually began working on a separate Pokemon-inspired prototype he called Diablo Jr. Pokemon was really big at the time, he recalled. We thought we might do something similar where you could fight these monsters and get this whole different genre, age group. Because Diablo was for adults. That was the genesis of it. After around 6 months of covert development, he eventually got a demo running on the original Game Boy, and had enough in place to show a character walking around the world. In terms of the gameplay, Morin's small team were debating whether to try and preserve the series' signature hack and slash elements, or follow in Pokemon's footsteps, and take a turn-based approach. Unfortunately though, they never got any further than that. Managerial changes and new owners killed the project before it did even begun to truly take shape. But with the launch of Diablo Immortal, the franchise's smartphone debut imminent, Morin was probably ahead of the curve. Those interested in learning more about Diablo Jr. should head on over to Variety for the full story. For better or worse, much of the games market is moving to games as a service. Once upon a time, this was known as the MMO business model, because almost were games as a service, and virtually nothing else was. Obviously, a lot of GaaS games will not be MMOs. Candy Crush Saga is a service, but it's not MMO. Nor does GaaS mean the game has to be free to play with themselves via microtransactions. GaaS is a business strategy, and that P is a revenue model. In the past we have seen services of all sorts drive revenue in lots of ways. In fact, cable companies and phone service both do just about all of the above at once. So there's lots of ways to make money if you have a service, and arguably, mature service businesses use as many of them as they can. But underneath it all is one inevitable underlying truth. There is no ongoing service without retention. This is why some game genres work better than others as services. If you can figure out how a given genre can retain, then you can make it work for GaaS. Whether or not it works for N2P is a separate, secondary question, and a lot of game types are built to be consumable, snackable, are played very intermittently. By their nature, they will work poorly as the sole anchor for a service. They might work great in the context for a service that has multiple offerings. Even something like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign meets this criterion. Heck, many classic tabletop games meet this criterion, or else people would not still be playing chess and Go. But an awful lot of games do not. What we are talking about is the line between a singular experience and something that can become a hobby, a regular pastime. What's the difference? In practical terms, take 2 games. They sold or gave away the exact same number of copies. The block is the cumulative number of users who tried the game. Game was popular, but for a short period of time. Each player lasted a day. Game B retained players. 90% of players stick around till the next day. The revenue potential is the area under the red curve, which is the game's active users. Game B has access to a lot more passion, a lot more interest, and therefore also a lot more money. The following mechanics are proven to drive retention. This is a non-exhaustive list, but covers most of the bases. I think these are mostly things you do with the game over time, in order to drive people to play it again, or turn it into a hobby. Consuming content as you move through a system can be very compelling. It could take the form of defeating, collecting, plot advancement, or more. It gives a clear aspirational goal for this session. and likely for the next session, and can hold people as long as the content keeps bringing changes on the basic mechanics. Leveraging this is how part of games were solidified and became viable as services. Even blowing up the current game balance and shifting it around can accomplish this, though it's risky.